Hey, evening guys. It is Sunday, November 2nd, 2025. It is now standard time and it's 7:16 p.m. Before I start this though, I'd like to ask you to do me a solid favor, and that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also, if you would like, you can click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube. You can find me at all your favorite podcast affiliates, depending on what you listen to for podcasts. You can find me at iTunes, iHeart, Pandora, Amazon Music, Audible, Spotify, Radio Public, and to an extent SiriusXM. Basically, wherever you can find a podcast, you'll find mine there. Also, I have other video outlets you can find me at. You can find me over at VENMO and Rumble, VENMO.com and Rumble.com, as well as Dailymotion and Odyssey. The first two, you can find content identical to the main YT channel here, as well as content that basically YouTube would be kind of questionable about, so you can only find it on those two outlets. You can also find me at Deviantart.com at BVW1979 and InkBunny.net at BWRoses. You can also follow me on Twitter and on Blue Sky as well as TikTok. You can follow me on those three affiliates. I also have a Patreon if you want to come over there and check that out. I have plans for it in the near future, so your support on that would be greatly appreciated. I also have a Venmo and a Cash App if you would like to take part in that. That'd be greatly appreciative as well if you want to. Also, I have a couple of stores as well. I have a Fourth Wall store. Link is at the top. It's fairly new. It's got two items with two graphic T-shirt items up there. The other three are blank. I have to fix those. But basically, the two main items, the two feature products, I think you will like those. So check that out for merchandise that you can't get anywhere else, as well as check out the links at the bottom to the OG Teespring stores that have been around for a while, for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also, guys, during this, the live chat will be open, so if you want to come in and chime in with your thoughts on what I have to say here, that'd be greatly appreciated. But also at the same time, Super Chats will be open, so if you want to donate your Super Chats into that as well, if you would like, while you're giving your thoughts on stuff, that'd be greatly appreciated, but that's up to you. Now, if you don't watch the video premiere with the live, if you don't watch the video premiere, or the premiere of this video, I should say, when it happens, but you still want to comment, comments will be open afterwards and during the video premiere, but also afterwards as well. And if you want to donate, but you couldn't get it here on time for the video premiere, then the Super Thanks icon will be open as well, so you can donate there if you would like. But with that said, let's get into the topic at hand. Now, we do know that Hazbin Hotel recently just debuted the second season. The second season just debuted with the first two episodes. The next two episodes will debut in a couple of days on November, in a couple of days on November 5th, from what I understand, because November 3rd is tomorrow, November 4th is Tuesday, so it'll be on November 5th at midnight local time. I'm assuming local time, or midnight Eastern, 11 Central, 10 Mountain, and 9 Pacific. So depending on where you watch it, that's when it's going to premiere. But anyway, I gave my thoughts on it and everything based on what I heard from Cartoon Universe. They've given more thoughts in some of their videos on what they see going on for season 2. Some people like Cartoon Universe and Sarcastic Chorus and Roundtable and several others, they were able to see season 2. Amazon Prime gifted them, I guess, the opportunity to watch all of season 2, if you will, before anybody else. So they kind of know what's going to happen, but they're not going to say. So they're only going to be talking about the episodes, that will premiere regularly for folks like you and me. They will only talk about them and give their thoughts as well, before they full on give their, thorough thoughts on the whole season, as well as even let us know what they've pretty much figured out from the get-go when they started watching it before, any of us. But with that said, there is one question that is getting asked a lot. And, that one question is Charlie's mom, Lilith. Obviously Lilith is going to play a huge role. But what kind of huge role that is, we don't know. Because for all we know, at the end of season 1, Lute approached her on a beach. Now, a lot of people say it's a beach in heaven. That could be. It could be a beach on Earth. That could be as well. But whatever the case is, Lute approached her, let her know what happened, to Adam and such, and told her that basically she needs to fix this situation. Well, after episode 2, here in the second season, Lute was basically put in her place. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily put in her place, but she was basically told that there's not going to be any retaliation. There's not going to be any, any revenge or anything like that. She was basically told straight out that, hey, what Charlie's doing might be a good thing. What Charlie's doing with the hotel might be a good thing. So Lute basically messages Lilith and says, "You're off the hook, blank." I'm trying to wait for the time here because I know YouTube has a certain time frame. But yeah, she tells her, "You're off the hook, blank," if you know what I mean. If you get the word that I'm trying to say. And Lilith basically, after seeing that message, puts her phone down. But it's also during her holding the phone up that we not only see the message from Lute, but we also see several phone calls that she has ignored from Charlie, from Lucifer, and as well as a text message from both of them. She's ignored them. But the question is, why? Why would she ignore her daughter? Why would she ignore... Well, we kind of have an idea why she would ignore Lucifer, but why ignore Charlie? Because as we saw in a flashback last season, she took Charlie away from her father. Basically, making sure he didn't see her as much as he used to. So the question is, what is going on with her? It's like, why is she ignoring someone that as a child she took away from the father to raise? Why would she ignore her daughter who's asking for her help or just wanting to check in on her, get some advice or whatever? Why would she do that? Again, we understand why Lucifer might be, someone she doesn't want to even communicate with, but, Charlie's another thing. Charlie's like, okay, Mom, I know you're there. Please, I need your help. I need your advice. Why isn't she responding? And I think, in my opinion, there's a reason. You see, Lilith, you could tell she's designed to almost look like she belongs underneath. She belongs in, the underworld, right? She belongs there. And even in pilots, even in the original YouTube pilot of the series, in some of the original designs for the series, there was posters of her being like a singer, Lilith in concert, but also being someone that would say, resist, stand up and everything, and all that. She would be that kind of a singer, that kind of a multimedia star, I guess. But even if some of that is still part of her character, the question obviously is, why is she not communicating with Charlie? What is she? I wouldn't say ashamed of, but what is she afraid of? Talking to Charlie about? Like, is she afraid that when she starts talking to Charlie, she might spill the beans about where she's at and maybe whatever kind of deal she made to be there? Is that the case? We don't know. It's an interesting question, and I'm even having a hard time as I record this to come up with ideas as to what her reasoning is, what her role is going to be. But when you think about it, it's like, again, you see that obviously her design kind of represents where she should be, but she's there, if you know what I mean. It's like, okay, how did she get there when she's supposed to be down there and everything? It's like, what's going on? Like, what happened? And what is this solution that Lute's talking about and everything? Like, what's going on? And what was the deal? And why is she now off the hook and everything? It's like there's a lot more questions than answers, and that's a good thing sometimes about a show like this. It makes you wonder exactly. what the next step's going to be for certain characters in the story. It's going to make you wonder what the next step is for the characters in the story. And this is one of those situations that I mentioned, a couple of days ago, when I talked about how some shows like Hell of a Boss and Hazbin Hotel will have these little subplots, that will take place, at the end of an episode, even if it's filler. And a lot of people will look at season 2, mostly episode 2, they would look at episode 2 of season 2 as filler. That's how they would look at it. Yeah, Serpentis was put on trial because everybody's wondering, like, how did he get here and everything. So, outside of the trial thing, it was mostly, people would look at it mostly as filler. The only thing that hooked us in as part of, the story arc, the continuity of the season was the ending with Lilith. So you have to, so again, you have to look and wonder, what's her role going to be? And, why would somebody that, in the earlier pilot, in the earlier, I guess you could say, introduction of the series, why was she looked at as someone that, again, was not just a singer, but was someone that through her music, through her talents, would, want to cause an uprising, down there? Why would she want to do that? That's the question. That's the question that, needs to be, that people beg to, want to have an answer to. It's like, what's her role? What's her role? If there's any connection there and everything. And you got to wonder, again, it's like, again, as I said earlier, what's the deal she made that got her up into heaven, but in seclusion? Because here's the thing, Sarah, who's basically above Lut, and it's like right under the speaker of God, or at least one of the angels under the speaker of God. She obviously, Sarah knows about Lilith. She knows about Lilith being there and everything, but you got to wonder what she knows as to, what she knows about Lilith being there. It's like, does she know something she's not letting Emily in on? Does she know something that she's not letting the speaker of God in on, or anybody else? It's like, what does she know about Lilith, being there? It's like, does she know about the deal maybe Adam made with Lilith? We don't know. We don't know. Hopefully we'll get some answers throughout the season and maybe next year, on the next season and all that. But again, we don't know. We don't know what, her role is in knowing about Lilith's, existence up there, her residence up there, in seclusion. Because the way it's framed, is Lilith is, up there in heaven, but she's in the secluded area, which gives her privacy. Like, basically, she's just doing her own thing, that she's just living her life, being, enjoying the alone time that she has, the privacy that she has. But the question is, why? Why is she doing this? Why is she wanting to be secluded in heaven of all places, instead of being out and about with the citizens there? Why is she ignoring her daughter? I mean, again, we know why she might ignore her husband, quote unquote, but why is she ignoring the daughter? What's going on there? Like, what deal does she make to make this all happen? What does Sarah know about the deal? What does Luke know about the deal? And everything. What is Sarah not telling? Like I said, certain parties that need to be in the know. It's like, what is she not telling them? And to me, I think the revelation with Lilith, in my opinion, and this is the one thing that sometimes I enjoy and don't enjoy about doing these, very shoot-like, off the cusp, shoot-like off the cusp of videos and everything, or audio videos, recordings, but again, it's something I like and I don't like. But when I do like it, it's because basically, I almost had a brain fart there too. I do apologize. But what I do like about it is you come up you almost instantly as you're recording, you come up with like an answer and everything. Like an answer starts springing. You start piecing the bits of the puzzle together. And I think the reason Lilith, is where she's at and why she might play a big, big role in everything is because I think, honestly, this is just me. This is just me. I think Lilith is a hybrid. And some people feel the same way too. She's a hybrid. And what I mean by hybrid is she's actually still a living being from Earth. She's not an angel. She's not, someone that should be, she's not, an angel or, a demon and all that. She's not heavenly bound, or she's not meant to be heavenly bound or hell bound or whatever. Like basically, I feel what she is a living earthly entity that is kind of like stuck in the middle. And what I mean by stuck in the middle, I mean basically she's somebody that, based on what her decision making will be when the time comes, is either she's going to ascend and become full-on angel, or she's going to descend and become full-on demon. That's the way it looks like to me. So that's why I think she's kind of like that middle entity. Basically, she's still a living, breathing earthling, human, if you will, that's stuck between, ascension and descension, if that makes any sense. And I think that's why she's ignoring Charlie. That's why she's reluctant, and maybe even breathing a sigh of relief. Even if she just doesn't take it seriously or just brushes it off. At Lute telling her, hey, you're off the hook for what I was going to have you do. To me, I think that's why, she's hesitant to take part in any of this, and she just wants to be left alone. It's because she's not ready, in her mind, to go either up or down. She's not ready to ascend or descend. She wants to enjoy life. She wants to enjoy doing what she loves to do. Lying on the beach and everything, enjoying her tea and crumpets or tea and apples, if you will. She just wants to, do her own thing, be left alone to her own devices, and enjoy life as much as she can until the moment which she knows is going to come, whether she wants to admit it or not, or wants to accept it or not, until the moment comes to where she has to make that decision. And when that decision comes, it's either going to decide whether or not she goes up or she goes down. And that's what I think is going to happen with her. I think that's what Lilith is. I think she is basically, still a living earthly being, but it's kind of like stuck in that, where is she going to go? Where is she going to go? Now you might say, well, how does that make any sense if she's still a living earthly being deciding where is she going to go? It's real simple. It's real simple. She could be in a coma, for all we know. Now you might say, well, the way it's described is she was there almost since the beginning, right? Well, yeah, she was. Yeah, she was there, since the beginning. But we don't know whether or not she became immortal. Because one thing about these kind of shows is that these stories can allow a character, or certain characters to gain immortality. She can find a way to, they can find a way to gain immortality, and maybe that was a deal that was made. That Adam somehow granted her immortality, but he would only grant him, and by extension Lute would only grant it to her, if she basically helped them out when the time was right, or when they needed. Or if something was to happen to him, or Lute, or whoever, she would be there to help out, when they needed her. So I'm thinking what happened is because she's immortal, it doesn't mean, okay, she can't die, but it doesn't say she can't be put in a coma. So for all we know, she was probably put in a coma. Something happened to her on Earth. She got put in a coma. She's on that she's on that doorstep, if you know what I mean. And I think what happened is spiritually, Adam and Lute met up with her and said, hey, we'll bring you up here. He was like, we'll bring you up here because your physical body is, immortal, but your spirit is in limbo now because you're in a coma. If that makes any sense. I'm betting they'll make it more sensible if they do something like this, for the series. But still, I could see it to where her body's immortal, but it's not, it's not, it's basically not damageable. It's not, it's not resistant to injury and all that. She's just immortal, so that no matter what her injury is, even if she gets shot and everything, all that, the most that will happen is she'll go into a coma, which would mean her spirit would go into like a limbo. And I could see that being the situation here, to where something happened to her on Earth, and her physical body is still there, lying in a hospital, maybe like a Jane Doe or something like that, or labeled as a Jane Doe. And basically her spirit is now in that limbo situation, to where she's either going to have to let her spirit go and just ascend to one place or another. And I'm thinking Adam maybe made her a deal, like, hey, we'll bring you up here. We'll find a way to bring you up here until the time is right to put you back in your body and everything. But we'll only do so if you do us a favor. If you do us a favor, if you help us when the time is right. And that's probably what happened. Now, again, how Sarah knows, I'm pretty sure they let Sarah in on it. They probably said, look, she's lying in a coma and everything. They don't know when she's going to wake up. They're still checking in on her all the time. They probably made something up to Sarah and said, hey, look, we just brought her up here to, just enjoy life. And they maybe Adam convinced her, hey, she can also be our ace up, could be the ace up our sleeve, just in case hell rebels against us and all that, or rises up against us. So that could have happened. That could have been, the reason Sarah knows. That could have been the reason Sarah knows. But I think honestly, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, that's who I think Lilith is. I think she's someone of an earthly sense, that something happened to her, and she's in a situation now where her spiritual body was in limbo, but was taken up to heaven because she struck a deal with Adam, and everything and by extension Lilith, to be like their ace up their sleeve. And Adam manipulated Sarah into thinking, hey, this is going to help us just in case they down there decide to rise up. So that might be what happened and everything with Lilith, and why I think Lilith is kind of like in that middle section. Because again, whatever her decision is going to be, is either she's going to go up or she's going to go down and everything. That's what I think potentially could happen. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute. She had Charlie with Lucifer. How does that even make any sense? Again, this is just me speculating. But I think she had Charlie while she was still alive on Earth. I think that's what happened. I think the way they're going to play it out is she was able to go to the underground, to the underbelly, if you will, and basically live out life with Lucifer because she got impregnated by him, and she had Charlie as a result. But she started to see Lucifer as someone maybe she didn't want to be with, and she didn't want Charlie to be, around. So that could have been one way that happened too. So whatever the case is, all I'm going to say is this: I truly believe she has some kind of connection with the earth, with the earthly realm. I do. I think she has that connection, which is why she was able to go up to heaven, and also why when she had Charlie, she was also able to go, down to hell and everything. I think that all took place, that all took place basically during her immortal time before she got injured, before her body got damaged and put her spirit into that limbo state. Again, just my opinion, but we'll have to see what Vizi has planned and everything. I mean, I'm sure we'll get some answers as the weeks go on, and those like Cartoon Universe and Sarcastic Chorus and Miracle Charm and all of them in Roundtable probably already know what's going to happen, maybe even know the answers we're going to get, but they're not saying until the time is right. And I still stick by the fact that I think whatever we get in that finale, Charlie's going to unlock some kind of power that's going to make her a little bit more angelic. I think we're going to get a taste of the fact that she doesn't just have a demon form when she gets mad. She's going to have an angelic form as well, and that's going to be the result, I think, of her connection with Lilith. You know, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what they do, but that's all I can really say on it, guys. I know it sounded like I rambled and went all over the place here, but my opinion that I'm sticking with, you know, when I thought about it as I'm recording this, my opinion is I honestly think she is a living earthly entity, a living earthly being that, you know, Lucifer allowed to be immortal, you know, allowed her to be immortal, and basically she ended up getting damaged, if you will. Or Lucifer or Adam, one of the two helped her to get immortal, and basically, you know, she ended up getting damaged. Her body got damaged. And like I said, if she was, you know, while she was with Lucifer back in the early days, that would explain how she had Charlie. And that was all before, like I say, her accident. But again, we'll see what happens. We'll see what the answers are. I know I'm probably stretching for a lot of stretching out to a lot of speculation and all that may not be legit or may not happen. But again, the question obviously is, what is Lilith's purpose? What is going to be her big role, and who, and what is she? Not only what is her big role going to be, but what is she? Is she heaven? Is she hell? Is she in between? Hopefully we'll get the answer. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. And click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube, as well as to support me outside of YouTube as well. But guys, give me your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think about it. And I do again apologize for rambling, going all over the place. But hey, that's just how I am. That's just how I roll. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. And until next time, I am out. God bless. Take care.